But before that, let's take a look at what the Sunday papers are saying, and the budget speculation has begun. You'll pay more to see doctors, or some of them, but you'll pay less for the drugs that they prescribe. Karen, let's start with the doctors' fees.
Indeed, Barry. The News Limited papers this morning are talking about a potential cap on the Medicare safety net on some procedures. This is the safety net that refunds up to 80% of out-of-pocket expenses. It's worth about $300 million. But the government's worried about it blowing out. It's already got a cap on some procedures like obstetrics, IVF, I think operations for cataracts and varicose veins. And Samantha Maiden's story suggests they're going to cap some other procedures because they feel like this system currently favours or is benefiting more people on high incomes than low-income earners.
And Piers, the flip side of that is cheaper medication for some.
Well, this is actually a pretty good move, Barry. It's been in the works for a long time, subject to negotiation between the pharmaceutical industry and the government. As you know, when drugs come on the market, they are name brands generally, and the drug company wants to extract a profit to pay for the research and so forth. But as the copyright on the drug runs out, they become generic. And what the government has done here has negotiated that the pharmacists are no longer able to charge the full price. So they will take, when the drug becomes generic, then the price will drop, and the pharmacist will no longer be able to charge the average consumer. And this will result, I think, in an overall saving, they're quoting, of about $1.6 billion. And giving the ageing population and so on and so forth, this is a very good thing for consumers.
And per prescription is quite a significant drop, isn't it?
Oh, it can mount, depending on the drug, up to $15 or $16 or so per drug that you're after. So I think that, this is pretty good, a pretty good move for our population.
Now, as budget speculation comes on the market in the next few weeks, Julia Gillard, I think, has a standard response. We heard it this week when she was asked to rule in and rule out certain stories.
I know where this leads, and 2 or 3 days out from the budget, it leads to a game of, will you rule out selling the Sydney Harbour Bridge? Will you rule out exporting the Opera House? And so it goes. So I'm not going to start playing the game.
I think we'll take that as a generic response for the next few weeks. And David Marr, the Prime Minister, has been ridiculing Tony Abbott's nanny subsidy plan.
Yes, she's called it succouring women. The nanny subsidy plan, governments have been looking at subsidising nannies for a long time. The Howard government looked at it. From a distance, it looks terrific and quite logical. Why not give childcare rebates to people whose kids are looked after in-home as well as out of home? But when you look at it more closely, it is a nightmare of supervision, of regulation, of payments. And all Tony Abbott is actually suggesting is that the Productivity Commission might look at this. And he has asked the Prime Minister to stop being so catty about his nanny plans, and he has suggested that she should be bigger than that. So we're looking for scale now, apparently.
Let's hear from both of them on that at recent news conferences, the Prime Minister and Tony Abbott.
I've seen in today's newspapers reports of federal Liberal sources that are saying very frankly they've got absolutely no intention of making any of these changes that Tony Abbott's talking about, and really it's just a way of suckering in women to make it look like they care about childcare costs.
Look, again, I just think that's more carping from a Prime Minister who should be bigger than that. Why shouldn't we be a little bit more flexible and a little bit more effective and a little bit more family-friendly in our childcare arrangements? This is just more spin and relentless negativity from a government which is more like an alternative opposition than a real national government.
And there's something in what he's saying. It's coming through all the time now about the negativity. Now, I know it sounds strange because Tony Abbott tends to be negative.
Is the master of it.
But on the other hand, Julia Gillard is obsessed with Tony Abbott.
Well, I thought that was interesting during the broadband discussion earlier this week when she was announcing the proposed rollout to 2015, and she said there will be no broadband under Tony Abbott. Well, that's another lie. Everybody we have broadband now. We're not going to see our computers...
not the Rolls-Royce model. Yes.
We've got the
Datsun 180 model, yeah.
That's your qualification, Barry, not her qualification. She said, period, there will be no broadband. No carbon tax, no broadband. Where will it stop?
But that cattiness and meanness of political debate has been going on for a long time now. The public is completely sick of it. But when Tony Abbott talks about why can't we be a little more family friendly, we're talking about $500 million a year of little more family friendly. And we do have a budget to balance. So.
But we also have the reality, I think, David, that people in the major capitals find that it's impossible to support a family unless both partners are working. And there is an obvious shortfall in terms of childcare.
It's very, very hard to regulate and arrange. That's the problem. I agree with you, of course.
And if they come into the home, what do they do when they're there? Are they just childcare workers?
Well, and is it a grandmother who's stepping into the role, and how you police all of that?
I think this is why it's worth the Productivity Commission having a look at this question.
Sure, have a look.
Finally, Karen, a senator has died. Liberal Senator Judith Adams has died of cancer.
Yes, Barry, the West Australian, the Sunday Times in Perth, the West Australian newspaper has recorded the death yesterday of 68-year-old Senator Judith Adams. Insiders has received an email from Senator Adams' son Robbie today, which I thought I'd quote a bit from. He says, on behalf of the family, they'd like to thank you guys for entertaining their mum for all these years. He says that it was a great Sunday tradition. They all sat around sharing a coffee, watching Insiders, even the bloody cat. He says, if at all possible, please pass on all our thanks to all members and staff. He said Senator Adams passed away peacefully with the love and company of her family and will always be remembered as an incredibly generous and loving mother, grandmother and friend, and apparently a pretty mean golfer as well.
Great. Thanks for that. OK, well, that's the Sunday Papers. We'll go to our program guest now, the Shadow Minister for Immigration, Scott Morrison, who joins us from Sydney.